The nation of Israel had many kings. Some were good and trusted the Lord and did what God said. Others were bad and did not trust the Lord and did whatever they wanted to. The first king of Israel was named Saul. He became king around 1048 BC. He was the king the people of Israel chose. He looked like a king. He was tall and regal, but his heart wasn't big and regal. His heart was full of fear and envy and meanness. He would not trust the Lord. This made him a bad king. One time the Philistines, a great nation that lay to the west of Israel, gathered together to fight Israel. The Philistines had 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen and more soldiers than they could count. Israel had no chariot or horsemen. King Saul had 600 soldiers with him, and only King Saul and his son Jonathan had swords. King Saul and his army were at a town called Gilgal, waiting for Samuel, the prophet of the Lord. Samuel had told them to wait at Gilgal for 7 days, and he would come and give an offering to the Lord and seek God's direction. Saul waited, but Samuel didn't come right away on the 7th day. The soldiers were very afraid of the Philistine army. So as the day passed and Samuel didn't come, they began to abandon the army. When Saul saw that he was losing soldiers, he decided to offer the sacrifice to God. This was forbidden. God had said that only the priest should do that. But Saul didn't want to lose any more soldiers, so he did it anyway. As soon as Saul had finished giving the offering, Samuel came. Samuel asked Saul what he had done, and Saul said, "When I saw the people leaving from the army and that you hadn't come and the Philistine army was coming and they were so big, I felt I had to." Is it okay to disobey God, no matter your reason? Nope. For example, it isn't okay to hit your brother even if he took something of yours. Yet that is kind of what Saul did. You might hit your brother because you are so angry with him, but that doesn't make it okay. Saul disobeyed God because he was so scared, but that didn't make it okay. Samuel said to King Saul, "You have done foolishly. You have sinned and broken God's commandments. Because your heart is ugly and refuses to trust God and to do what God says, God will make someone else king. God will seek someone who has a heart that trusts God, unlike you." We're going to hear about that king, the king God chose, next week. A mighty king who loved and trusted God with all his heart. But today we are going to hear how God delivered Israel from the Philistines, even though Saul was a bad king. King Saul did not trust the Lord, but his son Jonathan did. Jonathan, with his squire, went to a garrison of the Philistines, saying, "Nothing restrains the Lord from saving by many or by few." So Jonathan and his squire went. When the Philistines saw them, they challenged Jonathan and his squire. Trusting that the Lord would give them victory, they went up to fight the Philistines, and Jonathan and his squire defeated 20 men. And the Philistine army and the garrison became very afraid. And then God sent a great earthquake that shook the garrison and the whole camp of the Philistines. And God caused the Philistines to be so filled with fear that they began to attack each other and to flee. When Saul and his army and the people of Israel heard that the Philistines were fighting themselves and fleeing, they came out to fight them. And so that day, God saved Israel. Jonathan, unlike his father, had a beautiful heart. What made it beautiful? It trusted the Lord. He trusted that nothing restrains the Lord from saving by many or by few. That means that he knew God could do anything. What are some things that you should trust the Lord to save you from? Well, a heart that God finds beautiful trusts that God saves you from sin and death. Death seems even scarier than that Philistine army with all its chariots and soldiers. But it was easy for God to save Israel from their army. God also saved you from death. Jesus died and arose from death to defeat death for you, for us. He has saved us from sin and death. You can put your life in His hands. He will take you to heaven. Here's the passage of the week. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Let's say that together now. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. This is exactly what Jonathan did and not what Saul did. So once more now, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Now go say it to your parents and have them quiz you on it every day this week. Catechism for this week is the first commandment. You shall have no other gods. You shall have no other gods. What shall you have? No other gods. What's the first commandment? You shall have no other gods. What does this mean? We should fear, love, and trust in God above all things. Let's say that again. We should fear, love, and trust in God above all things. Now go ask your parents if they know the first commandment and show them that you know it, and have them quiz you on it the rest of this week.